Manu Ginobili just announced his retirement. Congratulations to Manu on an illustrious career. There's so many things that you can say about Manu. He affected the game in a way that we've never seen before. There's generational players that really change the game as opposed to like what it could be, and then there's players that add new things to the game. I'll give you an example. Like Magic Johnson's a generational player. Michael Jordan's a generational player. Basically changed the way that we play the game. But then when you look at somebody like a Manu Ginobili with that Euro step, is essentially as big as Allen Iverson's crossover, if not bigger. Because you guys remember when AI crossed over Jordan, they had like books about how to do crossovers, tutorials. There was a commercial Reebok there with AI how to do his crossover. Well, when Manu introduced that Euro step or made it popular, it was crazy, and that spurred a lot of players. Like if you want to really get technical, Manu Ginobili is the father to a lot of these players that play today. Except, for example, James Harden. Manu Ginobili is James Harden's daddy, basically, because they're both lefty, and James Harden basically patented that irky-jerky Euro step movement basically from Manu Ginobili's game. And that within itself is crazy, because if there's no Manu, we most likely won't have a James Harden, which is nuts. Manu's career is great, four-time champion. He's part of one of the most winning, I think it is the most winning trio, maybe behind Bill Russell, but I believe it is the most winning, our highest percentage winning trio ever. Manu, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan. His numbers during the regular season was solid in his prime. 19, 17, 16, 19 per points game scorer. But what really intrigued me about Manu is during the playoffs, he upped his game. And you saw that in a lot of their championship runs, that he really pushed the envelope and he helped the Spurs in a lot of ways, switching momentum, hitting big shots, even some defensive plays. You guys got to remember I think it was the year before last, when James Harden was knocked out of the playoffs in San Antonio, Manu had a big block on James Harden. So there's a couple of things that Manu does, and the way that he affects his game, the flair that he brings to the game, it's really game changing, if so to speak, or whatever the case is, because he brings that South American flair to the game. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever played, when you play pickup with people, like some of their games is different. Like when you play a game in inner city, when you play basketball, and like prep school, and then when you play the game with the Latin flair, he embodied that Latin flair, that fire, that push, that great passes, the Euro step, the irky jerky movements, sometimes the sneaky athleticism to bang on somebody at times. So Manu had that all wrapped in one. It was great to watch. It's really sad that we're seeing the end of the era with Popovich, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker. But like Smitty says, and Father Time is undefeated, and when he tells you to sit down, it's time to sit down. I feel like when Manu saw that he really couldn't keep up with a lot of guys, couldn't really defend, he wasn't scoring how he wanted to, it was just like, it's time to hang it up. And on top of that, Manu's not the kind of guy to hinder progress. I remember he told a story, or Tony Parker was telling a story about Kawhi Leonard, and Tony Parker was saying how he was used to Pop yelling at him and stuff like that. And Popovich was yelling at Kawhi Leonard, and Manu Ginobili came up to Pop and said, "Hey, he's a young guy. He's new. Like, you can't yell at him like that. You gotta let him be. You gotta let him be free. You gotta let him make mistakes like you did with me." And that within itself shows you his mentality and how he never was the kind of person to be held in chains, and he doesn't want other players to be held in chains. So I feel like he sees that there's a younger generation of Spurs coming up, and he just wants to move out of the way to let them grow, get that game experience, and get better, as opposed to him being that veteran on the team that really can't contribute, and all he can do is just talk with his mouthpiece. But he could do that in more of a advisory role or assistant coaching role instead of just taking a space on the roster for a guy that really wants to play. Because the thing is, with Popovich and the way the Spurs organization is run, they could say, "Hey, he has seniority. We'll play him over you anytime." But he's looking out for the DeJounte Murrays of this world. That these young guys that want to come up and want to play, but they're living in the shadows of Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. He's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna step down. He did it in a classy way. He's been a great player, really great for the game. Honestly, he is the daddy to a lot of these lefties out here. I'm telling you, with the Euro step, some of the step backs, some of the moves that these guys, James Harden in particular, that they basically got it from Manu, hands down. There's unequivocally no debate about that. Some of these scoop layups, layup with the same foot and stuff like that. Some of that is Manu Ginobili inspired. So kudos to Manu. Have a great retirement. Hopefully he doesn't miss the game. These guys, he played 16 years. Look at somebody like Kobe, 19, 20 years, Tim Duncan, 20. I hope they don't miss the game, man, because it's just 20 years of doing the same thing. Now it's time for a new endeavor, something new to crush, and just something to look back at and marvel now, because you were in it, you weren't able to revel in it. So now you're retired, you get to actually live through the moments, go through your highlight tape, and that's something to be said. Hoops Junction, where hoops meets hoopla.